Hey, what's happening, guys? How are you doing? This is Rob of Ro2R Review. Welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to discuss Nintendo, and as crazy as it sounds, the year 2020. So first, you guys will notice that you're actually watching some gameplay of Starlink Battle for Atlas, of course, on the Nintendo Switch, as you can tell because I am piloting the R-Wing. And I really have only barely played the game as of the time of the recording of this video. I put about an hour or so into it last night, which was launch day. I filmed a really fun unboxing, and I have to say on the little bit of time I've played with the game, it's actually pretty good. I'm really enjoying it. I like what it seems to be setting up and what it's promising for the future. This unique sort of hybrid combination of being like in a space fighter combat ship, but also being on the ground, on a planet in sort of like an open world, and this whole small planet to kind of explore and find missions and interact with NPCs and study the wildlife and the local indigenous actual life, plant life, stuff like that. It's really cool in the early hour or so that I've played with it. So I'm very excited to see where it goes. I'm sort of adjusting to the whole toys to life thing and trying to figure out like what weapons and things can I use that I don't have the physical toy version of, because it seems like it's telling me I should be able to use some things that are unlocked, but I can't seem to access them, and like maybe I'm supposed to buy the toy. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't spent that much time with it, but I do think it's cool. I love the visual style. It is so awesome seeing and hearing Star Fox characters and having kind of a Star Fox story wrapped up in this game. It's essentially a third-party game developed by Ubisoft, but is using this Nintendo IP, similar to Mario plus Rabbids. And like I said, with so little hands-on time, it's hard for me to say that it's incredible and tell you all to go out and buy it, but I will say I'm enjoying it, and the promise of what's to come is very exciting. Anywho, that's not what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about, like I said in the beginning of the video here, Nintendo and the year 2020. And now I know the first thing you think of is, Rob, that's crazy. Why would you talk about 2020? It's only 2018 still. We still have 2019 to go. And of course, 2019, we know as of right now, is slam-packed with a lot of fantastic games. And so why would you possibly even be looking at 2020 or wanting to talk about that year? And I know that that seems crazy. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense to question that, because it probably is maybe too far into the future to start looking, but I have a reason. I think it's important, and for me, that main reason, it might not surprise you guys, mostly starts with Metroid Prime 4. Of course, Metroid was the genesis to this conversation. I mean, come on, you guys know me. I'm a Metroid super dork. I am so pumped for Metroid Prime 4. I think it's going to be one of the greatest games. I mean, I've been waiting for this game essentially for a decade, you know, a little over a decade, since 2007 when Metroid Prime 3 released and finished. And so in thinking about Metroid Prime 4 and being excited for that game, and, you know, for the most part, I've been assuming it's going to be a 2019 game. That was my thought when it was first revealed at E3 last year. Many people jumped to 2018. They said, oh no, Nintendo's obviously very far along with this game. They're just playing coy and they're going to launch it in 2018. And I kind of took that reveal at E3 sort of at face value. And I said to myself and to you guys that, hey, I think Nintendo really just started development. That's why there was only a logo. That's why there's been no gameplay or concrete details or even screenshots or concept art. I think this game is far off. It's probably 2019. And I have written that as a truth this whole time. Here we are now, mid-October 2018, and clearly the game is not going to come out this year. It's not going to come out randomly in the last 2.5 months of the year. We are at the point where we're kind of expecting it to show up in a couple of months at the Game Awards in December, and like finally revealed by Nintendo, but it's not going to be released. This game, for all intents and purposes, has been assumed to be a 2019 game. But when I started to really think about it, and when I also started to throw in another pretty high-profile game that we haven't heard of since, Bayonetta 3, I started to wonder, you know, there's a lot going on in 2019 right now. Nintendo seems very, very prepared for year 3, which is mostly 2019. They were prepared out of the gate with an incredible launch year, as I've discussed before. 2018 took a little bit of a dip, much slower on the games front, but now they seem really ready to start knocking them out again in 2019 in year 3. But what about Metroid Prime 3 and Bayonetta 3? Or Metroid Prime 4 and Bayonetta 3, sorry. What about those games? Why are they still a mystery? Why is Nintendo waiting so long to just give us the dates and the confirmation of these games, even before they show us more gameplay? That seems kind of strange. And that's when I started to wonder, you know, if they've got so many games coming in 2019, and these games are still a mystery, maybe it's because they already have some huge heavy hitters lined up for year 4. which would be 2020. And so, like I said, I know it may seem initially kind of crazy to start looking so far ahead into 2020, but I don't know. I guess it just makes sense to me, man. I'm feeling it right now, mostly because of my love for Metroid and my curiousness, my curiosity about when that game is going to launch. And you know what? I think if you actually stop and think about it, it kind of makes sense. I mean, with so many games already planned for 2019, it's almost like you could kind of make the argument that Nintendo might not even need to include games as high profile and as big as Metroid Prime 4 and Bayonetta 3 in the same year. I mean, they really don't necessarily need to. It would be great if they did. I would freak out and cry with excitement if they did that. I think that would be fantastic. But they really don't need to do that. When you have the likes of Fire Emblem, a brand new Pokemon game which is going to be so massive, Animal Crossing, Daemon X Machina, Yoshi's Crafted World, amongst many others. I mean, Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. For me, I'm very excited. You've got so many great games there already primed for 2019. You really don't need to include something as big as a Metroid or a Bayonetta. And so, if you think about it, it becomes smart because in a world where they also released Metroid Prime 4 and Bayonetta 3 next year, at that point, they've almost literally completely emptied their entire catalog of big games, of big franchises and heavy hitters. I mean, we will have had a new Mario, a new Zelda, a new Metroid, a new Pokemon, a new Fire Emblem, a new Splatoon, a new Xenoblade, a new IP with ARMS. I mean, they did have Mario Kart 8, which isn't really like a new game, but it's like a fairly newish game and a Mario Kart entry. I mean, it'll be out of this world, you guys. And it's like, holy crap, with all of those games out by 2019, it's like, where does the Switch go? What does Nintendo have left in the tank from a first-party perspective to go? Not many games. I mean, you think of F-Zero, you think of Pikmin, and I guess you could throw in Mario Kart 9 into the mix if they wanted to do the actual successor Mario Kart. Oh, and of course a new Smash Brothers. I almost forgot that a new Smash Brothers would have released. A new Kirby would have released. A Yoshi. It's insane right now when you throw in Bayonetta and Metroid into next year. It's like by the first 3 years the Switch is launched, they will have expanded everything. Almost their whole category. And I do think Pikmin 4 is coming this generation. And I want to believe in F-Zero, but I simply don't. I just don't think we're going to be getting an F-Zero. I want to believe in Kid Icarus. I've talked about it before, but I don't know that I believe that that's coming. I guess a new Donkey Kong would be something else. I mean, I don't know what else we'd be missing. It's just insane. At the end of the day, you really start filtering yourself down to like the bottom of the barrel of remaining Nintendo franchises to think about them having something first party for year 4 in 2020. And so that's why I believe possibly not releasing Bayonetta 3 and Metroid Prime 4 next year becomes smart, even though it's going to crush my soul if it's true. It becomes smart because they have still 2 very heavy hitters to release in year 4 and to prime people up and keep people invested in the Nintendo Switch in 2020, keep people wanting to go out and buy the Nintendo Switch in 2020. Nintendo has been very smart about how they're marketing the console and all these great games they're releasing. They know that they've needed big games every single year, every couple of months for this console, and it's worked. They've succeeded, but eventually that well is going to run dry, and so at this point, with 2019 already being stacked without Bayonetta and Metroid Prime 4, I'm starting to believe it makes sense for those games to actually get pushed to 2020. Now, full disclosure here, I'm not so dead set on this that I'm here putting out a prediction that these games or one of these games could be 2020. I don't really know that I feel comfortable enough either way. So I feel like I'm just not going to make a firm statement on that stance and kind of just wait to see how it plays out and as we get new information over the next couple of months. I'm probably going to mostly stick to hopefully 2019 still being the launch year for one or both of those games. But I think that it's smart enough to be aware of what's happening that it's a good idea to basically keep your mind open to it. Let's just all be prepared emotionally to learn, oh my god, Metroid Prime 4 isn't 2019, it's 2020. And same with Bayonetta 3. I mean, those games, like I've been talking about, make so much sense that following year that I think we need to be prepared so that we're not overly disappointed if in a couple of months Nintendo's like, here's what Metroid Prime 4 looks like, and it's coming summer 2020. And we're all gonna, like, be freaking out and everyone's going to be losing their minds and crying about this amazing game Metroid Prime 4 or Bayonetta not coming out until the following year, which is not what anyone's really expecting right now. So I don't know, man. And I know that I've for a very long time been standing firm on 2019 as a release date for both Pokemon and for Metroid Prime 4. Pokemon, of course, has come true. Metroid Prime 4, not yet given a release year, but it has not been 2018, which was my prediction. So that part was right, but now I feel like, the longer we go, the more information we start to get, the more 2019 comes into focus, and that's where it just makes sense in my brain to be prepared for these games to end up being 2020. And like I said, it would crush me. It would absolutely crush me. I would be so devastated and depressed. But at the end of the day, there's plenty of amazing games, Nintendo and otherwise, on all consoles to play. Honestly, 2019, I'm somebody who has a PS4, an Xbox One, and a Switch. I will be playing all of these mammoth games that are coming out next year across all platforms. It is stupid. I almost don't want any more games to come out next year. There's just so much stuff to play across all consoles. That does, of course, include the Switch. I am massively pumped for Fire Emblem, massively pumped for Travis Strikes Again and Daemon X Machina, definitely picking up Yoshi. It's going to be great. And, not to mention, I talked about this recently too, Smash Brothers is going to be brand spanking new in January, February, and March. Remember that, guys. That game is still going to be new. We're still going to be unlocking characters and stages and Easter eggs into January and February. That game, we'll be playing it like it's brand new because it comes out December frickin' 7th. So that's another thing to throw into the year. So anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I think you guys ultimately got the idea. I just wanted to bring up the concept of Nintendo actually already being smart, thinking way ahead, not just immediately ahead in 2019, possibly thinking way ahead about 2020, year 4. We got to have stuff to go. And so maybe Metroid and Bayonetta have to be it. Maybe those games, they get all the time they need in development, and then they finally get to release in 2020, and hopefully they're just as amazing as we want them to be. And Nintendo's got some heavy hitters to keep selling the Switch into year 4. I mean, I know I already said this, but again, just imagine a world where Metroid and Bayonetta release in 2019 as well. Once we hit January 2020, what's left? I mean, what else would there be? Even if they suddenly were going to bring a Pikmin and an F-Zero and a Kid Icarus, to be fair, we haven't had a new actual Star Fox, of course, Starlink here, but you know what I'm saying, a new real Star Fox. I mean, even if they had some of those games coming, sure, they would be great, but they don't move consoles. They don't sell a system the way a Zelda or a Mario or a Pokemon or even a Metroid can do. They really won't. They need stuff that's bigger than that. And Bayonetta and Metroid, to me, could be those perfect companion games to be big tentpole releases in 2020. So either way, I'm going to end this and wrap this up here. It's an interesting theory, It's an interesting thought. What's going on with these games? Will our souls and our joy be squished out of us if Nintendo confirms these games for 2020? Probably yes. But hey, with any luck, I'm wrong. I mean, I'm willing to sacrifice 2020 to get these games in my hands sooner than later. So we're just going to have to wait and see when Nintendo tells us. Maybe we get an idea in a couple of months. At the Video Game Awards, we'll just have to wait and see. What do you guys think? How do you think about Metroid Prime and Bayonetta? Do they make sense in 2019? Do they make sense 2020? Should Nintendo be looking that far ahead, or should they not? Whatever it is, you guys discuss it below. That is going to be it for me. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Ro2R, and I'll catch you next time on another video.